Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the Body Beauty Show. I'm here today with Dr. Kristine Blanche. It is a French last name. I am mispronouncing it. I'm sure it's Blanche, and she'll correct me if I get it wrong throughout the show today. She is the Detox doc, the prevention partner. She has more diplomas behind her name than there are letters in the alphabet, and I'm delighted to have her on the show today. Dr. Kristine, thanks for joining us.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I could do a very poor attempt at explaining to you what you do, who you are, where you sit in the universe. But let's give the listeners a bit of an insight, context, call it what you will, on who you are, what you do, and how you fell into this here.
Awesome.
Orbit.
Wonderful. So yeah, as you said, I've been a professional student in many, many degrees of education, constantly kind of expanding my horizons. And I was very conventional, actually, in my medical practice for most of my career. And it was my family members got sick. I had a sister-in-law who got cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer at 32 years old. And I kind of intuitively knew I needed to go hunting for additional resources for her. So I started reading all these books on holistic care and conventional, the difference between conventional and holistic and nutrition and exercise. And honestly, I was kind of blown away by all the information in all my years of education. I had not learned about how to take care of a person, actually keep somebody healthy, think about, wow, why does someone get sick? That was actually something I had never been taught to do. We're just taught to diagnose and treat and not really ask, like, why did this person get sick? Why did they have digestive issues? Could it be that nutrition and medicine are separate entities, as far as my education had been. So I went hunting. I started reading everything I could. Went back, got my master's in holistic medicine, and ended up getting my Ph.D. and my MD, and just kind of went searching for information. And honestly, I was really disenchanted with my own background and my own training. Like, I thought I knew a lot. I was trained by amazing mentors and wonderful institutions. And I was just like, I felt like kind of like a failure because we did lose my sister-in-law to cancer. And for me, that was just kind of unacceptable. And so that's where my passion grew out of, is just kind of not ever being unprepared again for somebody I loved. And then also being able to truly bring integrative medicine together, meaning the best of my conventional training and my holistic knowledge to really help people understand what's happening and what their options are. I found there was a lot of like very left wing in holistic and kind of let go of conventional. And then there was really conventional who didn't believe in anything. When my surgeons I left my practice and I said I was going holistic, they thought I was completely lost it and totally nuts, So it was, a passion for me to bring together truly research-based integrative medicine to my patients and be able to kind of hold their hand and be their partner through the path of illness and even just, prevention, just not wanting to get sick. I started with myself. I started doing yoga and eating right and, and just not wanting to get sick. And that was like my impetus for doing all of this.
You said something that is going to provide a ever-ending, never-ending stream of nightmares for me, which is that you went through medical school and they didn't teach you how to identify the root cause of an illness.
Not at all.
Why is that? Why in the hell is conventional medicine so broken
you
in
can
America?
See why.
It baffles me.
I know. It baffled me too. I mean, I was like a dark night of my soul. I had to really kind of come to terms with the fact that everything I sort of knew and thought I knew to that point was wrong. And it was really, I think that's why I always tell patients, give your docs a break, because they're not doing the wrong thing by you. They're not intentionally holding back this information. They genuinely do not have it. We are not taught this. It is not in our wheelhouse of understanding. Nutrition is not even, the best medical schools have 4 hours of nutrition and 4 years of medical school, and that's just not changing. It's not getting any better. And then forget nutraceuticals. I mean, we are trained that supplements are like the enemy and they're useless and they're dangerous. And that's kind of our belief system that we're raised with in conventional medicine. And so patients really don't know, like the docs don't know the information. And it's not that they're withholding it or they're malintended. They just genuinely don't know. So you will come into them knowing maybe more than they do about something like vitamin D if you're in the holistic world, and it's scary. It's very scary, because for me now, doing what I do for 15 years, nutrition and stress relief and healthy living is literally how we help every patient, no matter what they come in with, whether it's something, simple like IBS or serious like lupus or MS or even cancer. changing their lifestyle and getting them the right recipe for themselves when it comes to nutrition and stress relief and exercise is literally how they get better. They get better and then they don't get sick again. That's the difference. Where we're really taught to just diagnose and treat and put on a medicine, and we don't even think about taking off the medicine because we don't think that the underlying root causes can change. It's a very different mentality. And that's where conventional practitioners are coming from, so it's like you're wearing blinders to a lot of this. Yeah.
So there's diametric opposition, it seems, between conventional practitioners and integrative practitioners, which, by the way, integrative medicine collectively refers to, I'm assuming, maybe as far as Eastern style medicines through things that are focused on nutrition, working with preventative care so that you don't have to land in the ER where you used to work for
exactly
a decade, right? You were an ER doc for 10 years.
5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years. Gosh. Yeah. And that's a high burnout sector of medicine, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I ER nurses, and they're burnt out after year 2. They're like, I got to get out of here. Oh my God.
Right. But I'm grateful for that information and education, because I'll be honest with you, if you got hit by a car, my herbs and my supplements are really going to help you in that moment. So, so I do have that, all those tools are incredibly valuable today, but, for chronic illness, that's where we fail in medicine, acute illness, trauma, emergency medicine. Yeah, you need stitches. You can't really use an herb to sew it back together, but it's chronic illness where we fail because we really don't know how to help these patients except just layer on medication after medication after medication. And it's the business of medicine, right? So I always tell patients, if you think about Europe, it's socialized medicine, which has its faults and pros and cons, if you will. But the government's incentive financially is to keep you well, because it costs them more money if you're sick. Whereas in the United States, it's kind of flipped, right? We only make medicine if you have a lot of diagnostic codes. We have a lot of things to treat. So until the foundation of the financial aspects of medicine in the United States change, I think that we're going to struggle. It's going to be two sides fighting against each other. That's why I picked integrative as a term to describe who I am, because I really do believe it shouldn't be alternative. It should be integrative. You need the best of both. You don't want to just let go of all the value. You want to really bring the best of both together.
So as an aside, and this is a distantly related point that maybe piggybacks off of what we're talking about, but I recall listening to a Tim Ferriss episode from his podcast recently with a doctor who studies shamans in the Amazon, and they have a lot of medicine that is herbal and from the earth, et cetera, that treats things that Western medicine couldn't dream of doing. So does your work toe that water as well? Or I'm trying to get an idea of how we demarcate which sandbox you plan.
Sure. I mean, I think that it's a mind, body, spirit approach. I think that there is, having learned this over the last, 15 years from my patients, there's definitive emotional pain, trauma, loss that leads to disease. And again, this is an element of medicine, conventional medicine, that doesn't even think about this. We don't even ask people what's going on in their lives when they come in with something severe. And I found definitive trends in certain types of disease that, you can't deny helping that patient heal their wounds, grief, loss, bad relationships, they affect us, mind, body, soul. And I think a lot of our injury, a lot of our weaknesses start with the pains in life, and then they're spiritual, they're energetic, but then they become physical if we don't help the patients heal with that. So a lot of the work that I do with my patients is on that, healing old wounds, spiritual aspect of their being.
Yeah, because it seems like pain in all domains, physical, emotional, spiritual, and otherwise, is always a referred experience. Meaning, my shoulder hurts, but oh my God, wow, it turns out I actually have a subluxation in my C1, part of my spine, and I'm feeling the pain in my shoulder, but it's being referred from something else. And I think, to your point, correct me if I'm wrong, but Western medicine tends to focus on treating the pain, but it completely ignores the root cause, because they're not incentivized to treat the underlying root issue. Because, I mean, I don't know what the because would be. Maybe this is where you can jump in and help me with my understanding here. But it seems that there's a fundamental disinterest in treating the root causes of damn near every ailment that plagues people in Western medicine. And I can't
Yeah.
figure out why. It baffles me.
I mean, I think it just goes back to the training. Like, I really just don't think we're taught to think about it. Like, it's such a different mentality than, traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, where all the ancient forms of medicine were like too new in the United States.
Yeah. Right.
We're not using those ancient forms of wisdom that come in those two other, components to really look at the whole person. We look at,
Mm.
even like a lot of times I see people just treat labs. We don't even treat people anymore. I had in my surgical training a doctor who was going to take a 15-year-old to the operating room for an appendicitis, and he hadn't yet put his hand on her shoulder. And I stopped him and I said, "You have to just go in and make contact with this child before you cut her open." It's just like seemed like such a like
Oh my
a
God.
foreign concept to me, but like, I do think a lot of this came in with me. Like, I look back on myself before I really knew holistic medicine. And I think I had lifetimes of holistic training in me, in my
Yeah.
being, like I came in like this. But a lot of people, if you just have the training that you're trained with, you treat labs or you treat CAT scans, you don't treat people. You shouldn't take someone to the operating room without touching the patient, right? You shouldn't look at a CAT scan and cut them open. It's just, there's a disconnect between human contact and medicine right now that I think has
Mm.
gone really to a very dangerous place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I think that, the solution would be with respects to things like that, where um, the doctor is just wanting to treat a patient as an object, a thing, right? Not an entity with sentience, consciousness, feelings, nerves, anxieties, and the rest of it, would be to somehow get or restructure the system in such a way that they have skin in the game. So this is an idea that I've been introduced to by an author, Nassim Taleb, has a book called Anti-Fragile, Skin in the Game, etc. Um, and he says that you should never take advice from someone that does not have skin in the game, because their advice is arbitrary. It's just a story, and there's no consequence to them if they're wrong. Most importantly, and so I think that's a greater issue that's going to be difficult to unpack in a 60-minute podcast. What the answer is to that, but it's a nightmare. It's sad. I mean, frankly, I have stories where it just seems so obvious in retrospect that the doctor just didn't either. Let me be charitable here. I think really the problem is that they don't have time. They don't have time. Chiropractors, which we work with a lot on with our product Cryoskin for fat reduction. Those that are wellness type chiropractors, one of the reasons they get into aesthetics, they add Cryoskin or whatever other device, is they are tired and sick and tired of being treated, or rather treating their patients like cattle, because they, declining reimbursement rates. They have to see 1,000 people a day to make $3 an hour, right? If they get paid by the insurance companies, that's a big if half the time. And so, I think to your point about incentives being just malaligned, that's the damn explanation for all the chaos, largely and roughly speaking, in Western medicine. But anyway,
sure.
we'll stop railing on the on the entities in that domain, because there's a lot we could rail on them for. But
And insurance has really done a lot of that, right? So your doctor has 3 minutes to spend with you. They only have time to ask you what's wrong and write a script. Like, the insurance companies have really, really destroyed the medical practice. There's none of that old-fashioned conventional, like family practice, where you knew the family, you knew the mother, you knew the sister, you knew the dynamics. They don't have time to know. So that's the sadness.
I always find it interesting when someone asks me who my family doctor is or my personal doctor is. And I just think, and like, oh, that guy that saw me for 2 minutes 10 years ago when I could get in to see him, that just immediately, without asking me a single question, poked me on the tummy and said, you need Valium, you need Prozac, I don't know, you need this, you need that. Take this, take that. Hopefully you don't die. Good luck. All the best.
Yeah,
Adios.
sure.
Oh, by the way, that'd be $5,000 and your deductible has not been met. So that's fun.
Yep.
Anyway, what a nightmare. But let's get into some more tactical stuff for the listeners that are maybe in shoes. I can imagine your story resonating with either the ER doc or someone that's in Western medicine that's like, oh my God, I'm gonna pull my hair out. I got to do something on my own. I got to start my own thing. And I'm sure that for you, there was a moment where all at once, like a flash of lightning through the skull, you had this epiphany, this cathartic, this crux moment where you decided, I'm going to go ahead and do me and start my own thing so I can better serve the people that I can. Because you, as you say in your bio, unless I'm going cross-eyed here, I believe you said that you knew you were born to heal. And I don't know which age that was where that epiphany hit you initially, but assumably there was a moment when you were, I don't know, maybe in the ER or whatever, where you realized, I'm done. I got to do my own thing and start my own enterprise. Can you tell us what
Yeah.
that was like, that
Yeah,
moment?
well, I mean, it was, I was working actually in an intensive care unit, surgical intensive care unit when my sister-in-law was diagnosed. And as I started reading all these books and like frantically trying to get her to the best doctors, and I really, really didn't know about holistic at all. It was just like a calling that I had. Like I knew she was in trouble and I went searching, but I didn't have a handle on it. And I took her to a few different people and they were really not truly integrative. They were, very, very left wing. There wasn't a lot of conversation about nutrition at all. I felt like she was unprepared to handle the chemotherapy. She died 9 months after being diagnosed at 32 years old. And she had a 2-year-old baby girl, and my children were 6 and 8. And I just kind of went like, oh no. And as I read these books, I realized like I was doing everything wrong. I was totally stressed out. I was a type A working mom, not making any time for myself. I was always a good eater, but I didn't know about all the vitamins that I should be taking. And I didn't know any of this. So when she passed, I was like in a dark night of my soul. And I knew I couldn't go back to conventional medicine. And I tried and I failed horribly. And then I made it a game for myself as I worked in the hospital. I was like, okay, I'm going to make a game out of this. I'm going to try to make the most people smile before noon.
Yeah.
And I would just, because people are so miserable working in the hospital. People in healthcare are very unhappy in general, And it was noon one day and I hadn't made anybody smile and I was no longer smiling and I quit my job that day. And I just said, this is going to make me sick. I became
Wow.
aware that the knowledge I had and not being able to truly practice in the way that I knew I needed to was going to allow me to get sick. And so I quit and I went back to school and I kind of, you know, I took a breath and I took care of myself and I then got strong and I went back out and started taking care of other people again. But it was just one of those, it was literally a day at noon. And I literally put in my resignation that day because I just was so aware of how stress can make you sick. Like
Yeah.
stress can make you sick. Stress
Yeah.
causes, it's a factor in every disease that walks through the door. I know this, with all of my heart. But we allow that to make us, we do have choices, we do have choices and we have to just say, when's our breaking point? And at what point do we have to just say enough? I need to just be healthy and take care of myself,
Yeah.
So it was really a powerful, dark time for me.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. My goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I years ago, I brushed shoulders with an Ivy League um, professor that was a researcher of, I think she was in epigenetics. Long story short, I was fascinated with her. And of course, I met her in a bookstore where she's like trying to ignore human beings. And I was over there like, somehow I knew she was a doctor. I was like, tell me everything. And she's like, ah, piss off. I don't want to talk to you. But anyway, I got one answer out of her and asked her, hey, what is the single most impactful thing that you learned in all your years of research? And she says, stress is the number one killer.
Definitely.
Wow. It's not cancer. It's not heart disease. No, it's stress.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Definitely.
So I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, and in fact, some of the listeners even, I would imagine, are in shoes similar to where you were, punching a clock, 8 to 8, 9 to 9, whatever your hours were, graveyard shifts, whatever. And they know there's a knocking on the door of, hey, that call to adventure, right on the hero's journey, meaning starting your own entrepreneurial idea. They've been pushing it off. They've been ignoring it. And, I think your story probably will resonate with a lot of these people. And I would say that, maybe you disagree, if that's you, listener, listen to the knock, open the door, and go start your own thing. Because as Dr. Kristine has made evidenced and is a testament to, success is just on the other side. And really, even if you make less, I would argue, and maybe, tell me if I'm wrong, but when you first started your business, you probably made a lot less than you did as an ER doc or an ICU
Oh,
doc by a
yeah.
lot
Yeah,
initially, right?
absolutely. Definitely.
But the emotional satiation of the needs that you have for caring for others, honoring the Hippocratic Oath and the rest of it, you probably had a tremendous uplift and enrichment with your life collectively that made the extra 100,000, whatever you would have made a year as a doc, arbitrary. It didn't matter.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the give and take that like I'm getting goodness out of every day that I work. I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
win-win, you know, and that feels great. It's not you're exhausted at the end of the shift and you're miserable and you go home and you have nothing left for your family. It's like you're getting empowered with every, you know, visit that you have. And that's priceless, you know,
Yeah.
really genuinely priceless, you know. So
Yeah.
I love my work again, which is wonderful.
Listeners, if you don't love your work, listen for the knock. There may be a call to adventure to start your own thing. So, well, let's pivot. Let's change gears because, someone like you with, again, 1,001 diplomas, having read every book that exists under the sun in the world of medicine, we could talk for hours. But let's see if we can get into some tactical territory for the listeners that are maybe in shoes similar to yours, where they're running a practice, a wellness center. And I'm assuming you would agree that you would categorically refer to your business as I guess, a wellness center, to state it loosely, I mean, to
Sure.
encapsulate the totality of what you do. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So, what has been the most difficult parts of your building out the business so far, and how long has it been open in existence? By the way, for
I
context as well.
opened the practice in 2008.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow.
we've been at it for a while.
Timely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, during
Um,
the madness of the recession.
yes. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So the beginning was hard. I mean, it was definitively the trial and error, trying to figure out what worked, you know, bringing in the right technology to be able to complement the practice. So I did my PhD in um, thermography. I don't know if you've heard of thermography, but it's
No.
basically like a far infrared camera that picks up inflammation in the body. So I would say the two leading causes of disease in any disease is stress and then inflammation. Inflammation is kind of the cause of everything bad, right? From heart disease to cancer to dementia. And so if I can look at a picture, it's like worth 1,000 words. I can see inflammation in someone's body and know where their weaknesses are. And we do a full body thermography, and I can see sinus inflammation that might suggest like dairy sensitivity. I could see hypothyroidism. I could see inflammation in the carotid arteries at like 5 or 10%, which is really early, way decades before you're going to worry about a heart attack or stroke. Gut inflammation, a weakened immune system. We can even see that somebody's totally stressed out in this picture. So when I tell you like a picture's worth 1,000 words, it's amazing. And I love it because it gives me a before and after for the patient. So I think a lot of the cool stuff, what we do,
Mm.
you know, we don't have a lot of objective measures. People feel better. Yes, you're going to get some changes in their biochemistry as far as like their numbers will get better and they can see the numbers get better and their kidneys get better. But when you look at a picture and you look like you're a mess, a hot mess and inflammation, and then you see a picture after the work is done and you look fantastic, such validation for the patients that like all this
Wow.
hard work, eating well, doing yoga, you know, exercising is worth it. You know, like it worked. It's like physical proof, and it's very exciting for the patients. And it's also really helps me be a better detective. You know, I think of myself like a detective. I'm trying to figure out where your out of balance is, where your weaknesses are. And to have this picture is like, I don't know why everybody doesn't have this in their practice. It's just
Wow.
unbelievable use of information technology to help a patient get their life back and get their health back. So that's been really wonderful. But again, it took me a few years to find thermography, you know, and then it really intensified my ability to be able to help people. You know, so finding the right technology, the people that work for you, having your right team. I think that's probably the hardest part of any business. You know, having people that can kind of be speak your language and speak your voice, be the voice at the front desk on the phone. I think that's a really hard part of being an entrepreneur, is building your tribe. You know, so that's obviously everybody struggles with that no matter what business you're in. But you know, those are the two things that I think, you know, those are the things: finding the right technology to round you out and bringing in the right people, I think, are the most important part of having a successful practice.
Wow. Well, now
Yeah.
that you have us all thoroughly tickled and excited about this damn tool, thermography, or the device that is thermography, where would you point listeners to go research that are
Sure.
curious?
So there's a organization called the IAMT, Institute for Advancement of Medical Thermography, and they have a lot of information on what is thermography, the technology of thermography, and then they have a list of practitioners all across the country that you can go to and find somebody close to you. It's just a priceless tool, and I think it's a great adjunct to anybody's healthcare plan.
And again, it was iaamt.com, I'm
Correct.
assuming. Let me see if I can find the hands
Yep.
were on me. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Huh. So it's actually, listeners, it's not IAMT.com. I believe if you do a search for Google, I want to make sure they have a way to find this as they're listening. Institute for American Musical Theater. That's probably not it. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Institute of Advanced Musculoskeletal Treatments. That is not it either. That's grinding.
No, it's not. Let's see here. Let's see. I think it's .net. I will find it for you.
Okay.
Oh, there's a lot of IAMTs out there.
I know. My goodness. .net is a Russian website. So that's not it. Anyway, listeners, we'll find it and put it in the show notes here, so you can find it yourself. But it's the Institute of, say the acronym again if you don't mind. It's the Institute
Institute for Advancement of Medical Thermography.
Okay, got it. Cool. All right, very cool. So let's talk briefly then about tech selection, because you mentioned there's really there were 3 challenges initially, or 2 really. Number 1 is building out your team and finding your people. So we'll come back to that. And number 2, how you decided on which products to, or devices or technologies, and that could be anything. I don't know, maybe you are super reliant on software like MindBody or something of the sort, or devices, etc. So how do you go about doing your research and selecting the right devices? And the reason I'm asking this specifically is research from the American Med Spa Association. Now, admittedly, this is a distally related universe. Obviously, wellness and beauty are neighbors, but wellness is a bit different than the spa world. But in any case, one of their red flags that they advise spa owners to stay away from, and this I think is applicable here as well, is to stop adding so many devices at once and be singular with your rollouts and implementation of new equipment, new products, etc. So how have you gone about intelligently selecting the right devices or tech?
So I would say it's trying to find the need, so for me, inflammation is a root cause of disease. And so finding a technology that will help me identify the source of that inflammation and quantify that is key. So that's how I stumbled upon thermography. I was very passionate about cancer care, but I live in Long Island and there's a lot of breast cancer in Long Island. And so I had a lot of people that I was taking care of, and I became very vested in not just helping a patient with breast cancer, but helping her whole family do everything they could to prevent breast cancer. And so thermography is also well known for a preventative tool for helping see the health of the breast and help them implement lifestyle changes to help that patient stay healthy. I also did a lot of work with Detox. So I had done some work with the 9/11 Detox Project shortly, a couple of years after 9/11. Being in New York, there was just so many sick rescue workers. And, they did sauna detox. And I was actually hired to be the independent medical person who would come in and just examine them before and after they did this 30-day sauna detox program. And I would sit with these guys and we would do pulmonary function tests, and I would physically examine them, and they would cry and they'd say, I'm dying. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I gained 50 pounds. I'm losing my marriage because I'm so stressed out. And it was just one after another. And I just felt so bad for these guys. And they would go through this 20 to 40 days where it was supplements, and they jump on a treadmill, go in the sauna for a half hour, sweat, come out, cool down, repeat the cycle. They were there 4 or 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it was not easy. It was a very intense program. But then they would come to me at the end and I would examine them, they'd bounce in the room. The same guy that said, hey, I'm dying, I can't do this anymore, would go, I feel like Superman. And I was like, what? I'm looking at my notes. I'm looking at this person. And I was so blown away by this situation. I brought media in. I'm like, why does nobody know about this? And it was just sauna. They were sweating out toxins. It was shocking to me how simple it was to take these 9/11 rescue workers and get them to reduce their body burden of toxins. And so then I just bought a sauna, and I got a sauna for my office. I got a sauna for my family. And I was just like, okay, this is huge. Because if you're toxic and you can just sit in a sauna and sweat out toxins, everybody should be doing this. We're not all 9/11 rescue workers, right? But we're all getting exposed to, BPA in the plastics and pesticides in our foods, right? So toxins are a huge burden for the health of people in the United States just because of our environment. So sauna was another thing. And again, it came out of paying attention. what do these patients need? You know, what's working for them? And then kind of extrapolating out, okay, well, everybody's toxic, right? Everybody's inflamed, so I need this technology. Everybody's toxic, so I need this technology. No matter who's coming through my door, if I bring in a tool that can help all of those people expedite their healing, then it's a win, you know? And I know what you're saying about a lot of practices just bringing in a bunch of technology and tools and not really like spread too thin, you know?
Yeah.
It becomes very expensive to have all that equipment. And then also like, how is it really exponentially helping your practice? You know, for me, you know, I get people better and they just tell all their friends and family, like it's totally word of mouth, you know, and I probably have a bad business model because I just get them great. And I give them their wings and they don't have to keep coming back, but you
Wow.
got to do a good job and have them tell other people like, hey, I felt sick too. You know, this is what you can do. So sauna was a big thing for me. You know, the thermography was huge. I did a lot. I did a lot of detox, online detox programs, where it's some, you know, you don't have to live near me. I give you information. I feel like knowledge is power. So I have like a 3-week program online where it's man up detox and girlfriend cleanse. And I kind of have videos and I have information and they get a little kit in the mail, but I'm able to help people in Arizona and Colorado and California. And that's cool. I mean, to be able to
Yeah.
expand your reach, that's something I would have done sooner in my practice if I realized how powerful it was, is more online video education.
Really?
Yeah, oh, it's so powerful. I didn't really realize how effective it can be. But you really, it allows you to hold people's hands. Like people always said to me over the years, I wish I could, Kristine, I just wish I could take you home with me. Because every time I come, I learn something. And that, like, I heard it enough times and I'm like, how do I get it so they can go home with me? You know, so I started creating these online programs and then the results were unbelievable. You know, I actually created the girlfriend cleanse first, and a lot of women's, of course, could drag their husbands to do it with them. So these couples would do it together. And then the guys would be like, listen, I lost 20 pounds. My libido's up. I'm in the best relationship with my wife in years, but I'm not telling my friends I did the girlfriend cleanse. You have to change the name. You know? So it's a process. So there are a lot
That's
of work to
funny.
create the programs, but boy, you can really reach a lot of people, which is very
Wow.
cool. You know, to get a call from
Wow.
somebody in Arizona and be like, oh my gosh, I did this program and I lost 20 pounds and I feel like a whole new person is so exciting, you know,
That's
because you could
amazing.
just expand your reach of helping people and make it so user friendly for them that it's really, that's exciting for me.
So I would imagine those courses that you've launched have been a tremendous hedge against the lockdowns and the restrictions that have been placed on people being able to come see you, both from a perspective of being able to serve your customers or patients, but also revenue wise. Right. So I
Sure.
think a lot of people, the second you get that closed permanently, well, temporarily, sign
Yeah.
slapped on the front door at the
Yeah.
behest of our lovely governors,
Yeah.
LOL. Which, anyways, another topic. But when you have that happen, if you don't have a way to reach your audience and deliver value to them through the internet, you're toast. And we see evidence of that with 36% of beauty and salon or beauty type businesses and salons being shut down permanently that were temporarily closed in March during Q2 from the
Sure.
Yelp economic uh, data that came out a few months back. But yeah, so I think that from the sounds of it has had a pretty big impact on keeping you afloat, cash flow positive,
Definitely.
serving
Yeah.
customers, patients, etc.
And I also launched a wellness warrior workshop free for my clients during COVID, where I just once a week got online and gave them like the latest data on COVID and what I was learning as we were learning it, because there was so much fear. Like people were just
Yeah.
terrified. I'm in New York, so we got locked down hard. We got locked down early, and the numbers were through the roof. And I personally had probably 120 patients that got COVID, and I helped manage them through that. But what was scary is nobody really knew what to do in the beginning. We were learning as we went. And that's the first time I've ever felt like that in medicine, where I just didn't have, there wasn't even research to find, you know, like I'm a practitioner who never minds saying, I don't know, but I know where to
Yeah.
find out the answers.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, you know, so that was really powerful for my patients to be able to get on that webinar, have a sense of community also, which was really helpful. There'd be 20, 40, 50 people on there, and they would be able to talk at the beginning of the webinar, just sort of feel safer together. And then the information as it came out was just so powerful. And I think it really helped my patients stay well during this, and still to this day, you know, keep them safe from what's happening in the world. You know, it was a scary time, still is, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have to ask the incredibly nosy question, which you can, of course, provide the middle finger to my face if you fancy and say, no, I'm not going to answer that. But what percentage of your revenue, if you are open to sharing it, roughly,
Hmm.
and again, this
Hmm.
might be a bit nosy, has come in as a result of your online sales, like these courses that I'm assuming you sell, right? Are they
Hmm.
free content?
No, the courses are for sale. Those have always been 3-week programs. I would say in the pre-COVID, probably 25% of the sales were coming from online
Wow.
programs. That's up to more to like 45%.
Wow.
I would say during COVID, supplement sales were a big cushion for me because
Mm,
people were listening to the webinar and realized like, wow, the data on vitamin D is solid. I need
yeah.
vitamin D, like
Yeah.
that was really, zinc,
Yeah.
the data on zinc was coming out early on. So I think the supplement, getting the information to the patients and having a dispensary that they could go online and order and have it in 2 days was priceless for me.
Mm,
So that was really, helpful when we closed, because we closed pretty early on as soon as I realized it was too dangerous to bring people together. So it's a good thing that I was already comfortable with that. Like I feel like that was a
mm,
gift for me to already have delved into that online presence and that
yeah.
online ability to be able to facilitate the education. So that was really helpful, but that's something I think I'm seeing a lot of people pivot now and jump in there, because you got to be able to find a way to take care of people. You have to be able to do it. I was just lucky to have already done that, thank God.
Mm,
I was already comfortable in the space and I'm familiar with the technology, but I think that's the future of medicine, to be honest with
yeah.
you. I really think it's going to be virtual
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future anyway.
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. Telemedicine definitely is on the up and up. Which
Yeah.
great. I don't want to drive to the urgent care. God, just get a doctor on the Zoom chat with me and let me
Exactly.
have him stare at my mug and figure out what the heck's wrong with
It's
me, which obviously you can't
true.
palpate and do this stethoscope
No.
and yada
Yeah.
yada, but
Right.
it's a decent standard. So yeah, I
Sure.
think listeners should take a look at your shelves, take a look, and by the way, I mean shelves like literally your supplements, but also take a moment to step back and look at the shelf of your mind to see what you can extract from it to deploy into some sort of package via a membership course or something digital that you can release to the wild, that provides value to your customers. And ClickFunnels is a great source for that, by the way. And I hope they're actually going to deliver like I think they can. I've been researching them myself for our company for membership sites, squeeze pages, and the rest of it. Which, by the way, squeeze page, sales page, all these things have a negative connotation. But really, if your message and your content and everything's good and valuable to the consumer, you have a moral duty, listener, to deliver the information in a way that navigates and weaves through the minefield that is the human psychological landscape, because otherwise they say, no, I'm not interested. When in reality, you may have saved their life if they just would have listened to you. So don't fail them.
Absolutely.
Look into that. And again, examine the shelf of your mind.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow. There's no time and there's so much to talk about still. And we've just scratched the surface. Real quick, what is the sauna that you bought so that our listeners can go do some research on that if they're looking to get into the sauna detox game?
I use the Sunlight and Sauna.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great company.
So the sauna, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to briefly ask. So the
Hmm.
sauna usage. So with detox, the moral of the story seems to be more time in a hot sauna, and I'll ask you about the temperature range in a moment here, but more time in a sauna, more detox, more better, to put it in a
Sure.
nutshell. Okay.
Definitely. Definitively. Yeah.
Is there a range temperature wise that like you need to be at 180, or I guess it would be, you'd probably explode at, at 180
It's
degrees or
about
whatever.
140. 140 is
140.
like a comfortable place. People always ask like, why sauna? Is steam just as good? And I would say you're going to sweat more in a dry sauna, right? If you're in steam, your
Mm,
body just doesn't have to produce the amount of sweat because you're already moist. So the dry sauna is the key. Far
yeah.
infrared saunas are supposed to penetrate more deeply and be a bit more effective. But when I work with the 9/11 rescue worker programs, they just did dry, heavenly heat saunas. So they didn't even
Wow.
have that far infrared technology, and it still worked. So I always tell people sweat. I think that's part of the problem with the Americans. We never sweat. Even in the summer, right? I bring a sweatshirt to the gym because it's usually so cold in there that
Yeah.
I'm like uncomfortable. So you have to sweat, like you go
Yeah.
from your
Yeah.
AC in your car to your AC in your house. And we don't, in Europe, they don't have AC, they sweat all summer. They drink more, they smoke more, and they don't get as much cancer
Yeah.
because they're laid
Yeah.
back and they sweat.
Right. There's no
Um,
stress. Like in
there's no
Barcelona, they take
stress.
siestas of 2 to
Yeah,
4 every day. I'm closed.
exactly.
Go to hell. I'm taking a nap.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's what we should be doing. But short of that, sweating is key to getting rid of
wow.
toxins. I mean, it really is really, really powerful.
140 degrees. So if you're in a gym sauna that's at a buck 10, buck 20, you're not going to get the same bang for the buck because you're not going to sweat as much.
If you're sweating, you will get the benefit. I find a lot of the gym saunas, it's almost too hot. They put it up to like 160, 180 because you can't stay in that long. So it kind of
Uh,
increases the turnover, which is
sure.
still,
Yeah.
10 minutes and 160. You can only really do 10 minutes. It's
Wow.
not sustainable. I would say if you feel uncomfortable, get out,
Yeah.
but you got to hydrate and make sure you're replacing your minerals and stuff like that. But I wish that everybody had a sauna in their house. I mean, I think it's like the best thing for people to keep their bodies clean.
I was just going to ask you what you paid for yours because you got me thinking I need to get I need to get a
Yeah.
sauna in my garage or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Are they
mine was,
expensive?
I've had mine a while, but they're usually, it depends. Like you can get a one person one, or you can get a three-person one, that they range. I would say even some of my patients that don't have the space for like a real nice sauna, like a built wood sauna, I would say get the ones, where you can lay it on your bed. It's just like a little dome you put over a massage table or on the floor even and just scoot in there. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to get you
Yeah.
to sweat, you know?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, gosh, I would love to ask you about your team selection methodology and mental models that you deploy for that. But why don't we do this? So we're getting tight on time, and I want to be mindful of your calendar and what you've got going on today. Why don't we pivot to the exit sequence, so to speak, of the show here? So here's the question, or here's the theme rather, for this part of the show. So I like to end every show, or most of them, with a levers and landmines exit, let's call it. So the levers are the things that you've done that produced an uplift in revenue creation or were net wins for the business, for the practice. Maybe it was you made this decision and oh my gosh, it was the greatest thing I've ever done. I'm so glad I did it. Whereas landmines are the opposite. So wow, I did this thing, total disaster. Listeners, don't do the same thing that I did. You'll save yourself 100,000 in ad spend and bad partnership or whatever. So are there any things on either of those two fronts, be it levers or landmines, or maybe one of each, that you have experienced as you've built up the practice that you'd be willing to share with the audience?
Sure. I mean, I think levers definitely the online information education products. That is been huge for me. Being able to, instead of having that one-on-one hour of time with one patient, being able to take care of multiple people at the same time has been a game changer for me. So that's something I think, and especially in this day and age, everybody should be doing some sort of online education program for their patients. It's like hard to put them together, but then they just go. They're evergreen.
Yeah.
You could be, taking care of 100 people at the same time. So that would be a definitive yes for that as a lever. I think also training of your people. Like if you decide to jump out of conventional medicine and get into this, the training of your team at the beginning is so important, and the constant education of the team, making sure they really understand. I can't make everybody become a patient, but I offer a free consultation. I take care of my team, and I want them to experience me and what we do and everything we do so they can speak from their heart. And it's not just a script they learned. What is thermography? Why go gluten-free? Why take vitamin D? No, I want them to live it. I want them to feel
Yeah.
the benefits. And that's something that I think has been a big success for me in my practice, is really having everybody be speaking from their heart and believing in what we do. That's really, really key. I think, mistakes I made in the beginning was not doing that training with my team and then just hiring more people. We're too busy hiring more people. Then it becomes more people who don't really know what they're doing. And that's a rookie mistake. That's something I think people
Yeah.
do in the beginning,
Yeah.
take the time, train the team, delay your opening for 2 weeks, make sure everybody's on the same page. Those little things I wish I knew way back when I first
Yeah.
started. Those would be the big ones, I would say.
So I was just to encapsulate the last bit you said about hiring. So it sounds like it's a case of, or you would advocate rather, having the mental model of grow slow, but as fast as you can.
Yes, agreed.
Got it.
Agreed.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, very cool. The last question that I'll ask, and then we'll park the car here, hang our hats, so to speak. What do you wish you would have known when you started that you now know that if you would have known when you started would have been a differentiator in some way?
I think that people need continued hand holding. You can have the best thing out of the gate. You can have people do a quick, 4-week, 6-week program and then have amazing results. But life gets in the way always. Stress pokes its ugly head. Life throws you a curveball and something big happens in your family, and people will default back to their old ways, their old habits, their old belief systems. So it took me a while to figure out I needed to create a hand holding program to continue the care, even if it was just like a touch base, a blog article. Keep that relationship going with your patients, even though they're okay, just so that they stay on track and their success continues. Very rarely do people come back to me now, I would say in the last 5 years, having had a setback. But in the beginning, they would come back, and I learned from my mistakes. So it was like, okay, I didn't continue holding their hand. I let them go. And that's great. You want them to get well and go and know what they need to do, but life always gets in the way, and you tend to fall back on those old belief systems, even myself, So finding a way to be able to just continue that care with them through an online newsletter or, a blog, or people are so busy now that it's hard to get like minutes of their time to keep that relationship. But that, I think from the onset, I wish I had paid more attention to that in the beginning, is that continued relationship with the patients is so important for keeping their success and keeping the relationship.
Love it. Love it. Outstanding. Well, there is, I think, a sufficient case here to go back in time and throw in prison whoever decided that 24 hours is all we get in a day. Because I wish I could spend more time with you and continue chatting. But we've got to get back to the trenches, our each respective, they're not trenches, they're sandboxes, call them what you will. Our day jobs, let's say. Before I let you off the hook and to get back at it and the rest of it, where can the listeners find you if they want to connect?
KristineBlanche.com.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, Hollywood, if Gal Gadot gets sick of being cast as Wonder Woman, I have another individual for you to cast in the next Wonder Woman film. Her name is Dr. Kristine Blanche from Integrative Healing Centers and Spa out in New York. If you're in need of some TLC and a tune-up and anything in between within the body and wellness, go see her. You'll be glad that you did. And on that note, let's hit pause and get back to it. Thanks again for the time, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Adios.